Hello viewers, welcome to Maths Made Easy with Onifade. In today's class, we shall be looking at change of subject of the formula. What do we mean by change of subject of the formula? This implies transformation of a given formula to make another quantity, which is usually a letter, the subject of the equation. This simply means that if you are given an equation, for example, if you are given a equals to x plus y, and you are asked to make a particular letter in this equation a subject of the formula. Let's say you are asked to make x the subject of the formula, that is, x should be equals to other quantity in the equation. The other quantity in the equation here is okay, we have y, which is another quantity. We also have a, which is another quantity. So if you want to make x equals to other quantities, that means we are making x the subject of the formula. So when we say change of subject of the formula, it implies transformation of a given formula. For example, now this is a given formula. Now a equals to x plus y, then we want to transform it to another quantity. That is, we want to make another quantity the subject of the equation. Here we are asked to make x the subject of the equation. That is, x will now be what? The subject of the formula. So x will now be equals to a minus y. So in this situation, if x is equals to other quantities, we can say we have made x the subject of the formula. So in this class, we are going to teach you how you can make a particular letter, a particular quantity the subject of the formula. So change of subject of the formula simply implies transformation of a given formula to make another quantity, which is usually a letter, the subject of the equation. Now, before we move on to the examples, there are no basic rules, there are no strict rules to solve this particular topic. But here I have highlighted some guidelines which will help us solve some examples. The first one, remove square or square roots if any. If you are given a particular question and they involve square or square roots, we have to remove it before we continue solving. So if any, remove the square or square roots. Another one, clear fractions and brackets if present. You look at your question. When you look at your question, if there is any fraction, if it involves any fraction or brackets, you must first find way of clearing it. The next one, collect the like terms together. Collect the like terms together involving the required subjects. So for example, now if you are asked to make x the subject of the formula and we have more than one x in the equation, you have to collect them together before you proceed. The next one, if necessary, factorize the term on each side of the equation. As we all know, an equation will always involve the left hand side and the right hand side. So if it is possible, you factorize before you make a particular letter the subject of the formula. Then we also have another step here. Isolate the required subject, usually by division by a common factor. That is, before we can get our final answer when we are trying to make a particular letter the subject of the equation, you isolate, that is, you bring the required subject. If you are making x the subject of the formula, you try to bring the x to one side, you isolate it. You make, that is how to make a particular letter a subject of the formula. You isolate the subject, then you get your final answer. So these guidelines are going to help us when we start solving examples. So let's solve some examples on this particular topic. Now we have two examples on the board. Sincerely, the two examples are very easy to solve. Now let's look at them. These examples involve cases of change of subject formula that does not involve square or square root. As you can see, the example 1 and example 2 does not involve any square or square root. So that makes them very easy to solve. Now let's look at this. Make t the subject And the question says P equals to open bracket T minus 1 close bracket AX minus 80 of the formula. So this is the given formula. Now the required subject is T. We want to make T the subject of this formula. Now how do we solve it? Now don't forget our rules. The guidelines I gave you the other time. The first one says if you have square or square roots, make sure you delete them, you remove them. But in this case we does not have any of them, so what we have is brackets. And one of the rules is if we have brackets we should clear the brackets before we move on. So how do we clear the brackets? We are going to clear these brackets by making sure we use this to multiply everything in the brackets. It's just like having 2a open bracket a minus 1, and I say clear this bracket. How do you clear it? You use the 2a to multiply everything in this bracket. Then you have your 2a square minus 2a. That means you have cleared the bracket. But so the same thing is applicable here. So let's move on. P will be equals to the solution. P will be equals to as times t, axt. As times minus 1 minus ax minus 80. Then the next step, what's the next step? The next step is to collect like terms. But if you are collecting like terms here, you make sure that the ones that have the required subjects is at one side and other quantities will come to the other side. So what is the required subject here? The required subject here is t. So we make sure that those that have t will stay here. Axt minus 80 will remain here. Why this one now minus as here? Because it does not have t, it will now move to this side and now becomes plus ax. So ax minus 80 will stay here. Only this will move to the other side. So we have collected the like terms. Now the next thing, we want to make sure that t is our subject of the formula. So both of them have t now. Now what is the next thing? And this size we don't have any t here. So the next thing is to factorize. We factorize. And how do we factorize? T will now come outside. Then we open brackets. Others will be inside the brackets. But you have to be very careful. So when you notice that a and t are common, but we are making use of t because t is the required subject. So in that case we now say t multiplied by what is going to give us axt, and that is going to give us ax. T multiplied by as will give us ast minus t multiplied by what is going to give us at, that is going to be t multiplied by minus a. T multiplied by minus a will give us minus 80. That is very simple. So we have factorized this, then we have this p plus ax. Now what is the next thing? We are making t the subject of the formula. So in order to make it easier now, we are now going to say t, let t equal, okay, so to make it easier, don't let me jump any step. To make it easier, let's say divide both sides by the coefficient of t. Now what is the coefficient of t? The coefficient of t here is open bracket as minus a close bracket. That's the coefficient of t. That is what is attached to t. So then I will use it to divide both sides. Divide both sides by the coefficient of t, which is ax minus a. So I will now say p plus ax all over ax minus a equals to t open bracket as minus a all over as minus a. This will cancel this. So my final answer is now going to be t equals to p plus ax all over ax minus a. So Here we have made D the subject of the formula. You can see it's very easy to solve. Now let's move on to the second one. The second one says 2D minus 3C all over 5D plus C equals to M all over N. Express D in terms of C, M and N. What this simply means is that we should make D the subject of the formula. So we want to make D the subject of the formula. And how do we do that? This question it involves fraction. And one of the guidelines is if we have a question that has fraction, we should eliminate the fraction, clear the fraction. So how do we clear the fraction? The first step is by saying cross multiply. So let's cross multiply. Cross multiply. So when we cross multiply, we will successfully eliminate the fraction. So n open bracket 2d minus 3c, that is n multiplied by this, cross multiply, this multiplied by this multiplied by this, equals to m multiplied by 5d plus c. That's the first thing. Let's proceed. N multiplied by 2d, 2dn. N multiplied by this minus 3cn equals to m multiplied by this 5dm. M multiplied by this cm. Now we are making D the subject of the formula. So in that case, we collect like terms. We make sure that all those one that involves D are at one side and others move to the other side. So let's look at this. 2dn minus 5dn. These two involves D equals to cm plus 3cm. Now, what's the next thing? The next thing, we factorize. Because these two have D, so those that have D, we factorize them so that D will come outside. We isolate D. So how do we isolate this? D is by factorizing. So D multiplied by 2n. D times 2n will give us what? 2dn minus D multiplied by what is going to give us minus 5dm. It is D multiplied by 5n equals to cn plus 3cn. We don't need to factorize this side. We only factorize the side that involves what? The particular subject. And what is the letter we are making subject of the formula? It is D. So that is the reason why we are factorizing this side only. Now the next step is to make D the subject of the formula. Now how do we make D subject of the formula? All the what now? You notice that D has a coefficient. Now what is the coefficient of D? Open bracket 2n minus 5m close bracket. That is the coefficient of D. That is what is attached to D. That is the only thing that is disturbing us. Now we now use that thing, we use it to divide both sides. So the next step will now be divide both sides by open bracket 2n minus 5m. And so that means D open bracket 2n minus 5m all over 2n minus 5m equals to cm plus 3cn all over 2n minus 5m. Then I will now cancel this. Cancel this. Then my final answer will be D equals to cm plus 3cn all over 2m minus 5m. So this is our final answer, guys. So thanks for watching. Kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel at Maths Made Easy with Onifade, and also follow me on Facebook and also like my page. Thanks for watching.